Thank you, Mr. Kabinej, for those inspiring words. We shall now move on to the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, our first plenary session, Strengthening Regional Collaboration, Policies on Disability Inclusion across ASEAN, is about to begin. In this session, we will hear from experts and advocates who are shaping the future of disability inclusion across ASEAN. Their insights will help us beyond the discussion and into action, building a more inclusive and equitable nation for everyone. Please join me in welcoming our panelist speakers and moderator to the stage. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator for this session, Ms. Adura H. Farouk, economist in Boleh Space. Adura is a trained economist with an interest in sustainability consultancy. He has 7 years of applied experience in capacity building, focusing on stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement, and social impact strategies. Her areas of expertise encompasses financial and non-financial valuation, such as carbon accounting, materiality assessments, life cycle analysis, and natural resource valuation. As a registered person of disability, she has contributed to the empowerment of marginalized communities in the advancement of corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion. Her interests lie on building partnerships for the advancement of social impact through nature-based solutions. The stage is yours, Ms. Adura.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Sorry, are you going to introduce all of the panelists as well?
We'll introduce. Miss Adura, it'll be good if you can introduce them as well.
Oh, okay. No worries, sorry. I'm a bit nervous today because I just came from Lawati to here and yeah, the traffic was bad. So, hi people. People who are disabled and like pre-disabled people as well. So it's been a while since I've done this. So I guess let's start. So the title of today's talk is, what was it again? Strengthening Regional Collaboration, Policies on Disability Inclusion across ASEAN. So there's a lot of flack about this, honestly. Joining me here is Datuk Megat, Prof. Rosita, who was my lecturer, macro actually at UIA, and then Ms. Rina from Jakarta, all the way from Jakarta. So they're going to be sharing a lot of sentiments, a lot of like things that's going on like with me as well here. So before we start, we're supposed to give a bit of like a 3-minute session for each of the speakers to present whatever that they are planning to talk about today. So I'm going to pass first to Ms. Rina to start her session. 3 minutes for you.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. All right, I'm Rina Prasarani. I'm the second Vice President of the Indonesian Association of Women with Disabilities in Indonesia. We call it Himpunan Wanita Disabilitas Indonesia, HWDI. And I'm blind, so I'm accessing my environment by hearing and feeling and smelling and tasting. So it is very honored for me to be here and talking about how we can strengthen in the advocacy and also the promoting the rights of persons with disabilities. What I would like to expose is here that a person with disabilities, the group of person with disabilities are not a monolithic group. So we are within our groups, we are also diverse. There are person with intellectual, physical, sensory, and also mental disability, and every one of them have their own challenges, and especially if you are facing the intersectionality like gender, disability, economic status and everything. So it is very something that crucial that you have to look not only the disability itself, but also beyond that. persons with disabilities are stigmatized for years, so it is not very easy to shift the paradigm for non-disabled people towards disability issues. It is also fragmented in the policy and also the budget that allocated for persons with disabilities. So this is some of our challenges that we are facing. And the second thing is that when we would like to advance the person with disabilities in the community, it is a must that person with disabilities itself being fully participated in all aspects of life, especially in shaping the policy. They can also contribute to the economic, education, health, and other civic spaces with the right accessibility and also reasonable accommodation. So I would like also to highlight the shared responsibility of the disability issues, that disability issue is not a matter of that has to be carried by the disability group itself, but it is rather that the shared responsibility, every stakeholders can take a part of that. Once we have the collaboration, when we have the strength to build a better policy, we can create the best support system for persons with disabilities to protect the autonomy, dignity, and also the safety for persons with disabilities. With that framework, a person with disabilities can also contribute to build the nation itself, especially when you are a part of the ASEAN, you become the part of you can build the ASEAN to a better inclusive society. So accessibility and reasonable accommodation is not a charity, it's a kind of commitment of respecting the dignity of persons with disabilities. I think that I stop there.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rina. So the way I propose to do this is that we'll give each speakers to talk about what they want to talk about first, and then we'll go with my questions and then your questions. But before that, I just want to ask, because I prefer this to be a bit more interactive. Before that, I want to ask the audience, have you read and understood the OKU Act 2008? How many of you has read and understood what does a person with disability or orang kurang upaya means? Can you show your hands? Just raise your hands. That's like 1/5, 10% of the room. Okay, so basically, a bit of a premise. So Akta OKU 2008 is based on the Conventions of Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And what the meaning or the definition of a person with disability is that we are not being disabled by our impairments, we are not being disabled by our ailments, we are disabled because our environment disables us from living a full life, from living a life with dignity and respect. So rights are given, everyone is born with rights, and that is kind of like the premise that we're going to be starting off focusing on now. That's why Ms. Rina mentioned earlier about how persons with disability is and should be treated from the perspective of rights and not from the perspective of welfare. So we're going to go forward with Datuk Magad. Your turn, 3 minutes.
So the floor is mine. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Very good morning to everyone. Thank you to MIM for inviting me here, and you have 3 panelists here. I'm overwhelmed with women in power here. So okay, let me introduce myself. I think just give me a minute, and I think that all of you will know which background that I'm representing. So my name is Magad Sharma bin Zaharuddin. I think you've seen me a lot in TV or in papers, but I'm only focusing on the para sports in the country. For your information, Malaysia has got 8 gold medals in Paralympic. Let's give us a round of applause for that. Thank you. So in Malaysia, the only sports that's been getting gold medals is basically coming from para sports, and I'm still cheering for the able athletes to get our first Malaysian goal for the next LA 2028. But then I think in terms of being here, this is my second term in Paralympic, and we're representing 24 sports. That's for para sports. It's for people with disabilities. We have a lot of categories of sports, and I believe that now a lot of parents are encouraging their children to participate in sports, and a lot of people are bringing their children out, coming to MPM, coming to PCM, introducing whether their kids can play sports or not. But you must understand that, being disabled but and wanting to play sports, it's possible. You don't have to worry. We can accommodate whatever it is. Just that I need to make sure that every parent or everyone to understand that we classify your disabilities based on the category of sports that you're going to participate, because it will be unfair for a person with visual impairment to play against a person who could be able to see. You see. So now I think I have just to share with the public that I have two children that's also special. I have one daughter that has hydrocephalus, and I have another son that has autism with high spectrum. And I believe that this is to my golden child that I embrace them, I love them, and I totally agree with Ms. Adura. I didn't even read the ACTA 2018 for OKU, but I read halfway. But along the way, we do understand, and we try to embed it in our ecosystem. And I believe that this platform will help people out there that would understand that being inclusivity is important. Being respect to each other, and Malaysia will be a better place in future, or even we having all our kids to know that parasport has been could embrace. We could also affect people's life by understanding that parasports could bring people to another level, could connect people together. And I believe that this platform, I'm happy, and it's my first time in MIM. I'm also a member of MIM. I'm not sure for how long, Mr. Kabir, for 7 years or 8 years. I still 2 years haven't paid the fees, I guess, I'm mistaken. But then I think let's enjoy today. I have tremendous speaker here. Let's do interactivity. I agree with Madura. Anybody can ask questions. Let's do. Let's wake up a bit, guys. Let's be excited about it. So I will not talk so much. I'll pass it to Professor after this, and later on when Ms. Adura will ask questions, we'll get along. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dato. I'm not going to add too much on that, except the fact that we don't even receive the same allocation for Paralympics such as the Olympics. So and yet we've won a lot of gold medals. So just put that into perspective. So before I go off too much of tangent, Prof.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Adura. Okay, it's always a pleasure to meet again my former students. Okay, she's one of the good students in class. Okay, alhamdulillah. And actually today I also brought 3 students from IIUM. Okay, to be present in this seminar today. Okay, we have Brother Nasrul, Hadi, and Sister Alia Zulfa. Where are you guys? Okay. All right, so just to introduce myself, I think for this first round, I'm Ruzita Mamami. I'm a professor of economics. I'm from the Department of Economics, Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences of the International Islamic University, Malaysia. Okay, I was actually the first batch of students who enrolled in the university in 1983. Okay, so from the very beginning, the university accepted persons with disabilities. Okay, alhamdulillah. All right, and since then, okay, I think since 2012, okay, we have established a unit, okay, disability services unit in IIUM, okay, to support and provide services to our students with disabilities in campus as well as our staff. And now we have extended it to our staff with children with disabilities, with the establishment of our community-based rehabilitation center in the university. So we have an in-house CBR program. All right, so I was a member of the National Council of Persons with Disabilities from 2012 until 2016, for 4 years, okay, 2 terms. And then in 2018, I was appointed to be a member of the National Council of National Advisory Education Council under the Ministry of Education. At that time, the Ministry of Education and Higher Education were merged, okay, into one ministry, right? So so today, you know, I'm going to focus more on education, okay, for people with disabilities, because I think education is very important, right? Because it opens many doors, okay? Once you know, a person, regardless whether person with disability or without disabilities, education is the most important right for us to obtain, right? To open all doors, okay, for employment, for future studies, for anything in the future. So that'll be my focus, inshallah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you all panelists and Prof for the last one. So before we start with my questions, I just wanted to add on the education part. We all know UPU, right? So it's a process where we apply for universities in Malaysia post SPM. A lot of OKU students, disabled students, still are systematically excluded from applying to certain programs or certain universities, regardless of their merits in UPU. So I'm just going to let that sink in before we go with the questions. So my question for first, Ms. Rina. Okay, be prepared. How has grassroots movements in Indonesia contributed to the regional policymaking for disability inclusion?
Well, every person with disabilities has a unique experience, especially for the HWDI, where all of our members and also the board of the members are women with disabilities. So we have specific unique experience, and from that daily unique experience, we become expert in our own life. So our life is our rights, and once we feel that there's something wrong, you know, that we don't get the same right as others women, as other citizens, then we try to discuss what is wrong is here. And most of the time we found that there is nothing wrong with the women with disabilities. The problem is that the system that is created in our environment is not accessible for us. So we try to find out what is best and how to approach the government and also the society, and it's also a kind of awareness that the rights of women with disabilities cannot just be neglected. For example, now we are working on advocating the rights of women with disabilities to the health reproductive issue, and we found that there's only 0.03% budget allocated or dedicated to women with disabilities. It is the problem why women with disabilities cannot, access the health reproductive service like any other woman. For example, if you are on a wheelchair, if you're a woman and you're pregnant, they've never been skilled because there is no kind of system that allow them to know how exactly the weight is. So we try to discuss this and try to give recommendation to the Ministry of Health and other ministry like National Development Ministry, and that is how we create shaping a just policy and budget for women with disabilities. Sometimes people think that why should we start from reproductive health? Why not just the primary health? I said that when when you start from the most marginalized issue, the other things will be impacted. There is no way that if the health, reproductive health service is getting better, the premier health not getting better, it is not possible. So once you few things from the most marginalized group and most marginalized issue, the other general thing will be impacted. And so that is how the grassroots can contribute to the national policy, and also as a member of the ASEAN, Indonesian can also contribute to the ASEAN level.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rina. So we're starting off great with gender intersectionality, which the issue with gender intersectionality and disability is that if we do not actually, what was the word again? If we do not actually kind of like think through it, yeah. So we do not advocate for it, then it's going to be a big issue, because the problem with, if we start small, we need to start small because we need to build a solid foundation before we go build a building on that. So basically it's something like that. And yeah, I mean, like Ms. Rina, in that sense, what are your main challenges in terms of like pushing for this agenda in Jakarta or like in ASEAN itself?
Well, the main challenges is that, as I said before, the stigma. For many years, persons with disabilities having the medical and charity approach, and it is not very easy to swift this kind of approaches. Somehow it is fragmented in every people's mind, and also it is fragmented in the policy, in the budget, in the way of people are handling persons with disabilities. So the HWDI has a DPIT, which is the Disability Perspective and Interaction Training. We train society on how to change their paradigm towards disability, and also how to interact in a meaningful or in an etiquette way. We found that in every session of the training, not a lot of people know how to interact with persons with disabilities. So we, women with disabilities, are the expert of disability. And so we are the one who train them, not non-disabled people training other non-disabled people on how to give perspective about persons with disabilities. But it is rather that we are the trainer, we are the expert, so we train everybody, and we also train this to the government agency. And so when we start to have a working group on policy, people are starting to accommodate, try to change their mindset about person with disabilities. That person with disabilities also is the expert on to contribute how the policy should be safe. So it is quite challenging, but we are getting, there are still a lot of things to do, but now it's becoming better and better. But our mission is to say that, this is also something that we should take a part of. Our voices has to be heard, and our issues quite specific, and we are the one who knows what's best for us. Nothing about us without us.
Wow, excellent premise for my next question. But before that, you've mentioned a couple of things that include stigmatization, that includes using words to describe, because words are inherently important. We use the word special a lot, which is it's a bit of an issue. We use the word special like as if we're superheroes, but we're not. We're just normal people. We're just people who are disabled by their environments. That's why we use the term orang kurang upaya, because we are being disabled our ketidakupayaan, our disability is because of our environment, not because of ourselves. So special orang kelainan upaya, it's it's a bit hard to accept.
Yeah,
in
and it
that
is also
sense.
challenging when I try to change the terminology of person with disabilities in Indonesia. We used to call it penyandang cacat. I always said that there is no way that you can cacat. If you find the words in any dictionary, it never comes to something positive. It's always negative, right? So in 2010, we tried to we gathered together to change the terminology of penyandang cacat, and we finally changed it into penyandang disabilitas, because at that time we were advocating for the ratification of the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We don't want that once the ratification is done, on the paper it is called again penyandang cacat, so we've done it.
Yeah. So yeah, words matter a lot. So in 2013, UNSCAP, which is like for ASEAN Pacific, we kind of like did a strategy called the Incheon strategy. It's for the persons with disabilities. So my question to you, which you have been building a lot under premise lately, is that how can person with disabilities actually be on the table, not just as a stakeholder, but as a power holder, to be part of the decision-making process, not just in the consultation process, to actually kind of like go through with the reporting, go through with the monitoring and evaluation of any policy. How can a person with disabilities do that, and how can we regionally, collectively ensure that happens?
So what we do is that the women with disabilities in HWDI always works on the specific issues that people by time knows about our expertise, and a lot of agencies, whether it is disability organization or any other agency, try to invite us here and there, try to discuss more general things, and we just give the perspective of gender and disability and social inclusion there, and so we become more and more recognized by the society, and also the government now is recognizing HWDI as one of the organization of persons with disabilities that can contribute to the policy. So when you are recognized, it's not just stop there. When the government or other agency invite us, it is very important to give the proper accessibility and also reasonable accommodation, because it is not about having everyone in one room. But when we say about inclusivity, it's about making sure that everybody who are in the room has no difficulties, whether it is in communication, whether it is in raising their voices, whether it is getting into the room, getting roam around in the room, getting to the toilet, or even to contribute to the recommendation of the policy or discussion, whatever it is discussed there. So inclusivity is not about having everyone in one room, but it's making sure that everybody in that room having no difficulties. And this is how we can once it is accommodated, we can a lot of persons with disabilities, whether they are intellectual or physical or sensory or mental disability, can contribute to the policy, and also it can raise our voices in the ASEAN level as well. And by chance, there is ADF, right? the ASEAN Disability Forum, and the Secretary General of the Asian Disability Forum is also our past immediate president of the HWDI. So we try to contribute and pass on what is discussed in our country in the national level to the regional level.
Here's a question. How long did it take for HWDI to be recognized by the government? Yeah.
It's quite hard to.
Is it like 10 years, 15?
Yeah, around 10 years, I suppose.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the resources, the time, the effort, the money that it takes just to be on the table itself. So yeah, thank you, Ms. Rina. I'm going to pass to Datuk Sri Megat
you.
now.
Do you want to ask me a question or I just keep on talking?
No. I'm going to ask you questions.
Okay, right, no problem.
So you've been on the committee. You've been with the Paralympic movement for a while, right? So what do you think about the Paralympic movement contributing to improving society's perception of disability? Because we've been talking about stigmatization, we've been talking about words, we've been talking about context. So what do you think about it? Has it been improving? Has it been the same, more or less?
I think we have improved a lot. I think the awareness as well as the representation of para sports in the country has embedded to everyone in Malaysia. At least I think back in last year in Paris 2024, for example, I think that we had more attention than the able sports. So I believe that it was a hope by the nation that we're seeing our para athletes. We must treat all the athletes the same. Doesn't matter, we're all human beings, we're all the same, we all pay taxes anyway. So at the end of the day, I think Malaysia has that para sports or any kind of sport is basically contributing back to the country. So the awareness campaign, the media attention, and also the corporate coming in, and also fighting stigma is also, it's been a daily life affair for people like us. So I believe that Malaysia is moving towards positively being inclusivity. A lot of companies are taking that policy. And I believe that PCM has done quite an important role together with our 24 members of National Sports Association that's under PARA, that we have been getting that positive feedback and our budget in terms that I've been quite a loudmouth on budget from the government. I don't go against the government or things like that, but whatever that's right for sports, especially for para sports, I will bring it up. And I believe that, same as everyone here, we want to do best, we want to do, better. And I believe, I always tell the government, even the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, says, sir, can you give money to us based on merits? We do not need sympathy. We do not need, we do not want you to think that we're not able to do. We are basically the same. We perform better. We have achieved and we have shown the country and basically that the taxpayers' money is worth putting in the para sports as well as, let's make equal budget and let's make it on merits. This is where I always speak to him. And also, as usual, I have a strong character. He will say, oh, okay, brother, we will work one by one. But then I appreciate the Prime Minister and also the Minister has been very supportive. And also together with, I think, Prof, I also with Majlis Kebangsaan KU. I was there for one term. And we managed to develop with the Ministry of Education the first national sports school for para for special again the word they use special ability kids. That we have the first national sports school for para athletes. It will be building's going to be finished by this year May. So I think that was one of my paperwork that we managed to do it because we have the national sports school for the able athletes. Now we have the first for all the special need kids that's going to be focusing on para sports. Yeah, so this is one thing that we're doing. And I think, Adura, you asked me other question.
Okay, I mean, it's nice to see that we haven't been running mostly on thoughts and prayers lah, or hopes lah. So at least that's progress. So my next question, what policies or frameworks has been implemented to support the current and future disabled athletes? Because I was a basketball player, okay? So, and I was a swimmer.
Oh, okay.
So, so yeah, what can we do to help people with disabilities to go more into sports? Because right now it's not really accessible if it's just centered around Klang Valley.
Yeah, I think the policy is already there. We are in the Act 2018 for parasport, so the government will provide us with budgets and also facility. But the other thing is that we have good facility in Kuala Lumpur, major cities here, but it will be good that we could spread out all over the country. So I think the government would have to have a center of each state for parasport. So I think there will be a powerhouse of parasports in the globally. This is what I believe. And I think despite having a lack of infrastructure, lack of centers, but I still cannot beat my Indonesian counterpart, Pak Sani. You know, they are, the population is one thing, determination is one thing. Each country has different kind of perseverance. Also, the athletes are different because, for example, I'm using Cambodia, for example. They might be a bit of a bit less income country or poorer country, but then this is their livelihood actually. So to them is they will make sure that they play hard, they earn, they do their very best. But in Malaysia, the same thing goes to our para athletes. We treat the same thing. We treat this as a job, passion, and this is basically changing their life. So I think that the policies are there for the government to to help us out. And also we do have International Paralympic Committee that has put framework in terms of classification, in terms of doping, fair play, and we have all that actually. It's just that I think the crux of everything, I might be a bit blunt here, is always about money, money, money. That's the problem. So again, in terms of, like I said, DBKL itself, you look at Kuala Lumpur, there's only one place, Brickfields, is considered more or less friendly for the visual impairment person. But then throughout other part of the city, you might not be able for people on wheelchair, people on crutches. We still have that lacking. I think that stigma still sticks. It's not going to be only Malaysia problem, but also ASEAN and global problem as well. It's putting on people's mentality, people's head that that we are the same. We are same human being. We don't have any difference. The only difference is that you don't have to think less of each other. So I believe that in sports it's important that we have that working togetherness with people to ensure that they don't have this stigma that looking down on people with disabilities. And I totally feel very offended myself. I'm not saying anything. It's just that I feel that I do some of my friends when they do wrong, I tell them to donate. I teach my friends, say, every time you don't support us, you got to pay me cash. You got to. So this is how I treat my friends. But basically, I told them that you got to contribute, you got to be a part of it, be part of the game. You must understand, give as much as attention that you can. So I think it's more or less how do we commit or how do we communicate with people. And I think that will change the whole ecosystem. And policies will just fall through by itself. This is what I believe.
Okay, thank you. Just for the record, what WHO, the World Health Organization, mentioned that in Malaysia, 15% of our population are considered as disabled. But how many register, Prof? How many register? Dr. Sri?
I think 700,000.
That's
we
about...
have about 4.2 million people who's disabled, but only registered about 700 something under JKM. But even my daughter, I haven't registered yet, Prof. That one I blame my wife. So, so I think we need to reach that number. So basically 15% of the population is under the We the 15 program. We have that in Paralympic. So we did light up the whole KL Tower, purple color, so that is basically the movement or the thing that we're carrying all over the world now.
So yeah, stigmatization causes registration issues, and thus the Paralympic Committee cannot get money because nobody wants to go into Paralympic. So basically it's kind of like a catch-22, a circle of life kind of thing, but that's his life. So I mean, like, it's nice to see that Cambodia and a lot of other Asian countries are moving better in terms of Paralympic and how they are treating their own athletes lah. So I wouldn't go to my next question of how can our policy can be scaled. I mean, it seems like we can adopt their policies of treating our athletes instead. So in that case, what, besides all of this, accessibility, money issues, resources issues, what are other main barriers that you think our industrial counterparts can help to improve the Paralympic athletes' livelihoods?
I think basically giving the athletes more chance of, in terms, you see, the government has set for each athlete who has finished their term as an athlete, we have a program for them to be in the workforce. So I think the public sector or even the private sector must give chance and must understand that, you know, that we are able to do as good job as anyone else, you see. So I believe that again, I said that they are scared of employing at least one or two, because sometimes the company would not be able to have space for them to move about with a wheelchair. Sometimes they're afraid that some offices are on staircase only. They don't have lifts. So there's a lot of things. So I think there's a lot of companies has a good heart to employ or to give chance to athletes or even people out there that you know, for work, but they're looking at whether they don't understand whether the ability of, I mean, the office space is okay for them to employ somebody, and they always think that, how do I, if we have financial problem, how do we terminate them? Are we going to have problems? You know, they're scared that it will go to the media and all that. So there's a lot of things that people are looking at. But then I told them that you have to understand that even though whether the person was on a wheelchair or not, you still, if you have financial issues, you still have to terminate people. That's life, you see. But then they are afraid of even taking the challenge or understanding it. So I believe that for us, we have a program for entrepreneur pathway, or you want to go to study, we have scholarships. We give our athletes to go chance to study and all that. So we send them from training. So we're quite okay in that. So we take care of our ex-athletes, we take care. So that particular framework, that particular blueprint is already there. So I would say that every time when I go to Bonn, Germany, when I speak to any other counterparts all over the world, I say Malaysia has the best ecosystem for para sports. That's why I don't need to say much on this stage here, because I think we managed to do quite a success for us, and as well as with the ministry. So we're quite thankful to the ministry, and we work hard for it, Adira. As much as we're fighting, that's where we are now. That's why I less voice out a bit.
Okay, thank you so much. So in terms of employment, I will try not to touch too much into that, because it's just going to open a can of worms. I'm just going to pass it to the next plenary session with Hasbi there. So yeah, I have my own issues with employment as a person with disability, despite the fact that if you want to provide reasonable accommodations in Malaysia, meaning if you need to renovate your office or something, you are given tax breaks, right, Prof? Yeah, so yeah, it's supposed to not be an issue. And under the HR, Human Resource Department in Malaysia, if I'm not mistaken, the statistics shows that a lot of OKUs, PWDs are employed in entrepreneurship, not because they are not qualified to be employed in the public or private sector. Mind you, in the public sector, we have the 1% quota. So that's also another issue. But they are doing entrepreneurship because that's the only way that they are able to live in dignity. So yeah, a lot of issues there. I'll pass that on to the next plenary session to talk more. So Prof, you're the side of the story now. It's nice to talk to you again after so many years. So let's talk education. So a lot of things with education, UPU, the ability to even go to the university, to school, to have reasonable access, a lot of things. What is the current state of PW education and employment? What are the barriers in terms of the future outlook and the strategies to improve access? You can answer one by one. I will repeat the question later. So just kind of like just a give brief of like the current state of education for OKUs in Malaysia.
Oh, that's a very big question. So yeah, allowing me to open the can of worms there. Okay, when we talk about education, as I mentioned just now, is the most important I think element that a person should have. It's a basic a basic right of everyone. We know that there are different categories of personal disabilities in Malaysia. They put it as 7 categories, but of course in other countries, there are a lot of variations in other. But we also know that there is what we call hidden and visible disabilities, right? For people with physical disabilities, for instance, right, or with hearing impairment or with visual disabilities, most of them, they do not have any intellectual impairment. Okay, so in a way, they can actually function. They can actually function quite easily, provided that the environment, okay, is supportive of them. Meaning to say that, accessibility is there, right? Physical accessibility as well as digital accessibility, right? For people with sensory issues, for visual and hearing impairment, digital accessibility is very important. But these are what's lacking sometimes, in the education system, in schools, for instance, right? And for those with hidden disabilities, for instance, like autism, okay, dyslexia, ADHD, okay, they look just like everyone else, right? But people do not know that they have impairments, right? Then a lot of stigma, okay, also related to that, because people with autism, for instance, they have issues in terms of communication skills, they have problems with social skills, right? So they cannot communicate, they cannot interact, and they have problems or not problems, they interpret things differently, they see things differently because they are neurodivergent individuals, right? They are born with a different I always call it wiring, okay, of the brain, okay, because of that, they are very, unique in a sense. They are different, but, they are not actually, what do you call it, supposed to be outcasted. But sometimes that's what happens in schools, okay. Students, especially those who are not diagnosed, okay, sometimes parents have problems in terms of, sending the children for a diagnosis, sometimes because of stereotyping, and sometimes also because of what do you call it?
Societal pressure.
Yeah, and that is denial.
Yeah.
Denial. They refuse. They do not want to accept, the fact that if the child is diagnosed as having an impairment, right? So that's still happening. Okay. So when the child is not diagnosed, so they cannot get the appropriate support and attention. Yeah, but of course, the problem with our education, it starts not just from lower education, it starts from early intervention stage. Okay, because for hidden disabilities, for instance, autism, those with intellectual or learning disabilities, early intervention is very important. Okay, because most of the time, okay, many cases, they can actually function if their symptoms are actually, they can get behavioral correction right from the beginning, all right? And so they can actually go to school just like everybody else. Okay, so from there, if we don't tackle that right from the beginning, we are going to lose out in terms of manpower, right? In terms of, the government, being able to allow them to be independent, right? So if we give them education, okay, we are actually allowing them to become independent, not just as a person, but also financially independent, right? If they can get employed, they can get a job, they can actually be financially independent. The government do not have to actually spend on them, It is actually economically feasible, okay, reasonable, okay, to actually accommodate or to actually address these issues right from the beginning, right? But for Malaysia, for instance, we only have 1 or 2 early intervention centers, right? Under Julius Kurnia, Permata Kurnia, okay, which is very good intervention center. But fortunately, there are only 2. But Alhamdulillah, the last budget, the Prime Minister has announced that there are going to be more early intervention centers going to be set up. Okay, that is a very, very welcoming. Okay, we welcome that initiative. Of course, some would argue why on autism, right? But I would say why not? At least for one type of disability, and it can actually be opened up, okay, to other types of disabilities later on. Okay, so I think we should accept it with an open heart. And it is a very good initiative. Okay, hopefully it will materialize, because when open intervention centers, it has to come with manpower, the training, all has to be there. All right, and in lower education, we have actually 3 types of programs. Okay, 3 types of programs. One is what we call the special education program. This is where we have special schools. Okay, like special school for the blind, okay, or for the hearing impaired, or for the learning disabled. Okay, there are special schools, but very few of these schools which are set up. Yeah. Then we also have what they call the integrated program, special education integration program. In Malay we call it PPKI. All right. So this is having the students go to regular school, but there's a separate class for the students with disabilities. Okay, these are mostly for students who are not able to follow the mainstream classes. Okay, with intellectual impairment and so on. So they have a separate class for that, and the teachers are specially trained. Okay, and then there's the third program, which is the inclusive program, whereby students with disabilities join the regular classes. Okay, this would actually be students with physical disabilities or other impairments who doesn't have intellectual issues, and they can actually follow the regular curriculum. All right, but unfortunately, many of our schools are not equipped with the facilities. Okay, so we find that there are cases where students on wheelchairs having to be turned away. Okay, because the school
Universal access
does not have facilities. Okay,
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it's still happening. All right, although hopefully improvements can actually be done in terms of providing access. Yeah, so that's one issue. When it comes to higher education, you mentioned UPU. Okay, yes, there was an issue in 2021.
Still
there
an
was
issue.
during
It's
COVID,
still an
right?
issue.
During COVID, yeah, there was an issue. I think sometimes this is the thing. The ministry wants to have inclusivity, disability inclusion, but the implementers do not understand what it is, and they do not understand how to do it. And then when they get advice from the wrong people, they start to implement it wrongly. Okay.
Because we are
Yes.
not part of the decision-making process.
Unfortunately, yes, but that's
They
the
don't
problem.
talk to us. They don't involve OKUs in the decision-making
Okay,
process.
even if they involve, they don't listen sometimes. Okay,
It's
unfortunately.
just for show lah.
This
Usually,
kind of
it's
work
just
lah.
proper. It's just
Okay, but must say that not all lah. But not all. Okay, there are some who are genuine. Okay, but the problem is sometimes they really want to help, but they don't know how to do it. They thought they're helping. They thought they were doing a good thing, but they're actually not. Just like the RAM, okay? My simple example. The hotel, how
It's
good
cheap.
is that they're providing the RAM, but it's all wrong. It's all wrong. It's wrongly specified. It's very dangerous. Okay, it's 45 degrees. Okay,
Yeah.
I can advise the hotel how to do it a proper RAM. Okay, all right. So maybe you can also help other future speakers as well. Okay, or disabled. But for the Ministry of Higher Education, I must say that there has been some improvements. Okay, the UPU issue was settled in the sense that at that time, the then Senator Dato' Razak Adiba, actually called a few of us advisors, group of advisors, and we actually had a meeting with the minister herself, as well as the UPU people and the entire top management of the Ministry of Higher Education. Okay, unfortunately, they think that they're doing something right, okay, but actually doing it wrong. The minister was surprised, because he was thinking that, oh, this shouldn't be happening, but it was happening. So, but what happened was that after we explained to them the situation, I think 1 hour after that, what happened was that they tagged, the program, university program, which one are OKU friendly. So, if you are disabled, if you are on a wheelchair, you cannot take certain programs. If you are autistic, you cannot take certain programs.
if you're blind, you cannot be an architecture.
If you're blind, you cannot be an architect. If you are autistic, you cannot be a lawyer. Okay.
Or a physicist
Yes,
or
something like that.
anything, yeah.
Something like that. So like they specify for you, but who are they to specify? Because this has entire spectrum, isn't it? Even people with disabilities, the severity differs, right? So it actually should be open. And I said, the person with disability would know which course that is suitable for them. Nobody will want to go into a program that is not suitable for them, isn't it? So, the fact that they are in higher education means that they can think, right?
Yeah.
So
Prof?
it was resolved. The 1 hour after that was lifted.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut you off there
Okay.
because I know I asked you only one question, but it seems like it has touched a lot of things lah. So basically, it's education, it's employment, it's universal design, it's the lack of implementation and monitoring of the universal building bylaws. We actually have that, universal building bylaws, and it mandates that all buildings in Malaysia, or at least
But if I can
in
just
the
add,
peninsula.
Adura, okay, despite all those things, there has been a good development lately, okay, with the new, with the ministry now. They're coming up with the new higher education blueprint, so they are incorporating disability inclusion into the document, all right? And also at the ministry level, and now they have actually launched in 2019 the guidelines on the implementation of disability inclusion in higher education. So all 20 public universities now have a disability services unit, okay, to support students with disabilities. In IIM, we have about 120 students, so I'm heading the unit, all right? So we're supporting them as well as the staff with disabilities, yeah? And also the KPT itself, the MOHI, Ministry of Higher Education, is actually drafting now their own disability inclusion policy, because they realize that universities have it, but the ministry doesn't have it, the policy. Now they're drafting it, okay, and it's going to be launched soon. Okay, so those are among the things, good things that are coming, and we hope it can bring some improvements in higher education.
That sounds good, but I mean, I want to ask more. Like, I want to talk more about the monitoring, the policy monitoring, evaluation, and reporting side. But well, I think we run very short of time. Do we have time for questions? Hannah. Okay, cool. So we're going to open the floor for questions. Hands. Okay, I see one. Okay, first person from the back. Yeah. Can you introduce yourself briefly and try to limit your question to only one sentence?
Hello. Yeah, good morning. I'm Raj from the ASEAN Law Association of Malaysia. I was just wondering, what is the ASEAN experience pertaining to allowing specially trained guide dogs to enter government ministries and departments for both their staff and members of the public who have challenges pertaining to their eyesight?
That is definitely not my expertise, so I'm going to ask Ms. Rina. I mean, your thoughts on this?
Guide dog, right?
Guide dogs.
Yeah. I learned about guide dog in Australia in 2010, and also I learned from my friends that in China also they developed the guide dog system. Guide dog for for blind person is very helpful to navigate in the open spaces, but not every country with their specific culture can adopt this kind of method. Like, for example, in Indonesia or in Malaysia, there is no way that you can go anywhere with dogs because the culture not allow them to do so. And on the other hand, guide dog is very, very expensive. And for like a country like Indonesia, where still some group of people are still living in poverty, and they're suffering or having a problem in even buying the food, it is not very very fair that we are giving a kind of food to the guide dog which is very, very expensive, while the other hand a lot of people is still suffering for hunger. So yes, in some countries you can apply that, but it is really depends on the culture and also how the economic status is can be look very just to accommodate this kind of method.
Okay, thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Adura, can I add on a little bit? Mr. Raj, for me, for sports, not a problem. If you come to our building, not an issue. If you have a guide dog, I think in terms of sports, we do have a lot of athletes with guide dog. A lot of foreign athletes, even though if they come to Malaysia to come to our sports complex, we still allow because sports inclusivity, we are positive. If you go to the religious department, a bit, not allowed lah. Boleh? I'm not sure lah, But for sports building, I'm for it, no problem.
So basically, it depends a lot on the location, the place, the contextualization. So
Actually, even in Islam, if it is necessary, it is allowed.
if it's purposeful, it should be allowed, right?
It is allowed.
Yeah. So thank you. Next question, please.
Hello. Okay. This question for Puan Rina and our beloved Datuk Sri Megat. Congratulations on your second term as a president.
Thank you.
First question. For NGOs, Persatuan under Athlete Renang Sukan, basically, they have channel to convey their disappointment or disagreement with parents. They have the channel. What about athletes? Okay, and I'm blessed that my two sons is under Team Para KL, which is under Datuk Megat. They are very happy. Thank you so much for your dedication. And my daughter is looking forward to join your team, but unfortunately, it's bound to a contract. Okay, this is the second question. Okay, what parents has been fearmonger with statement like, if you don't sign the contract, you cannot go for the SUKMA, for example. I think it's quite unfair. It's so-called bully in the sense of mental health instead of physical. It is more aggressive in that way. It's a kind of a threat, which is I disagree as a parent. And as a parents, we wanted to complain, but because of the fear, some of the parents are so ambitious that the children have to go to Parasuma. As for me, it's okay. I wouldn't want, but unfortunately, my husband has signed it. So what are the solutions that Datuk Megat were able to help us on to fight for our children's right and for the parents' right? And secondly, I guess other than that, I'll speak to you in personal. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Megat. You're so great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much to the panelists.
I can answer this in 30 seconds actually. Okay, Puan, I think in terms of athletes that's in the program, of course, you're bounded to certain contracts. Maybe the athletes will not, they have their own channel to address their grievances and all that. For as a parent, we could go through back to the association and we would also address this matter. In terms of the SUKMA, of course, they are protecting, basically each states are protecting their athletes for not going to another state or somebody pitching them from another. So there are guidelines on there, there's also rules. But anything that's beyond that, you need to add on or anything that you could go through the association and you could go through MPM as well. So we could bring that matter up because I'm also in the technical committee and I think that we could also voice that out. So not the problem. I think in terms of sports, in terms of getting parents' views, concerns are there. The platform is there. And I give you my word that it will be addressed, that's for sure. And we make the line open and I'm there for you, not to worry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sri. Do we have any more questions from the floor? Yeah, probably just one more last question. And then
Hi, I'm Daniel from 360 All Ability. Just a quick context from my personal experience as a former national athlete and currently aiming for the next Paralympic Games. I realized that there is no clear pathway for sports for someone with a disability in school. Meaning right now, if I want to be a national athlete, I have to wake up one day, decide I want to join the national team and go straight there, rather than try out different sports in school, right? So do we have a pathway, or if not, would we be open to discussing policies that will give equal opportunities for students with disabilities to practice or to try out sports in schools and not just in national sports schools? And this for Datuk
Yeah,
Sri Megat.
yeah, I think not a problem. For basically, if you're in Sekolah Pendidikan Khas, if you're in a normal school, you could always you have to participate in Sukma, it's a para Sukma. So from there, if you achieve to win gold, silver, or bronze, you can be called up, or there will be a what you call it, how to say, a trial, or we will absorb you into the system. But then the best part is that if you could attach to the association of the particular sports. So it doesn't mean that if, for example, if you don't excel in Parasuma but you're still with the association, they will still be able to send you for trainings, for even for competitions abroad. So I think that make yourself available to attach to the association, and if there's anything that you require that you think that you want to participate or you need help, you can always come to PCM. That's a pathway. It's been the whole it's been that process we've been doing. So Para Sukma, then if you win, you get to go to AYPG, Asian Youth Para Games, representing the country. Then when you achieve there, you will be put under the podium program. That's under the program under the National Sports Council. That's where you have to choose your life, whether you want to be a national athlete or you want to be a part-time, or you have to decide you want to study or you want to work. So basically, it's entirely up to you. But the pathway is from school, Para Sukma. But make yourself available for the association, we will bring you there. And I guarantee you, this has always been the pathway. And if you don't excel in sports, education is there, will help you in universities, give you scholarship, things like that. So I think my phone line is open. If you cannot get them, I call the president, don't worry.
Thank you, Dr. Sri.
Thank you, no problem. I give you my word, thanks.
Okay, final questions from the floor.
Well, we will take one more final question, yeah, and then if you have any further questions, I think we can approach the speakers
adjourn
during the
and
lunch break.
talk
Yeah.
outside. Yeah. Yeah. Can we just go to the gentleman in front?
Okay, I'm Mefdi. Yes, my name is Farid. I'm deaf. Yes, my question is, whenever they go to the bank, is facing a lot of problem with the deaf people when they are going to the bank, especially when the time that to open a business account. The deaf themselves, they have a problem in communications. So when they are there to open the account, they try to understand and communicate with the bank officer, but they feel that officer say, very sorry, you are deaf, and there is a communication breakdown. So when they see the hearing people, when the hearing people, they are there to open the account, and even through telecommunications, it's so simple. But this one has been happening to the deaf. They can't call by phone, and they are not independently to have an account opened. Now he just wanted to know how to solve this problem now, especially the bank account for business. I think that many for the OKU, for the bank, as they wanted to establish the account there, must they be given a special opportunity for them to open this business account? And also, he's hoping that the bank will give some respect to the deaf people and give them the opportunity to be independently, to be able to communicate there and to communicate with the hearing people, and hopefully this complaint will be lessened.
Okay, before I add my comments, do you have a specific panelist that you would like to direct this question to?
No, he just wanted to know inquiry only.
Can I answer that for him?
Before that, I just wanted to add a bit of comments here. Okay, so this issue of communication limitations between PWDs and a lot of a lot of public spaces like banks, hospitals, police, police stations, government offices, etc., has been rampant, especially among the deaf community. So one of such cases, allow me to open a bit of can of worms, is the issue with the deaf OKU driver that was assaulted by a police escort, I think, recently. And that case, unfortunately, it has still not been solved. So one of the issues is because the deaf OKU driver cannot or could not actually communicate properly to the police to the police officer at the station. So yeah, I mean, like, this is a big issue. So as we all know, if we non-disabled or non-disabled people can have access to these public spaces, why not disabled people? So I'm going to pass this to any of the panelists who would like to answer. How can we bridge this gap, this communication issues between disabled and non-disabled, especially in public spaces?
Okay, I think our Farid, I know him. We've met before in a few programs earlier. Okay, I think it is true there are issues in terms of communication, but I think actually this is what we talk about reasonable accommodation. What Ms. Rina is saying. Actually, solution is simple, isn't it? You can just write down. You cannot communicate verbally. Why can't they just write down? They can communicate, to the hearing impaired customer. It's a very easy solution. If you don't have pen and paper, use the phone. Okay, it's a very easy solution. But sometimes people, people do not think that there's easy solution. Whenever they see, a hearing impaired person, they only think that, you need to have a sign language interpreter, but not necessarily so, right? Do you know that this is what we call reasonable accommodation, simple solutions, actually, right? So, but yet again, I think the banking industry, I think if you can bring it out, the banking industry should have some form of training, at least for their, for their counter services, right? For them to be able to learn how to interact with people with disability, different types of disabilities, right? And in terms of respect, in terms of empathy, right? So it needs to be there. I think that is somewhat lacking. Okay, in many organizations, somewhat lacking. Maybe MIM can take it up. Since universities we can collaborate. Like for instance, I was mentioning earlier before, like IIM for instance, we do give training. All right, not just DT, disability equality training, but we also include inclusive leadership, right? Because we want people to make changes, not just understanding what disability is all about, okay, what kind of changes need to be done, but how to actually do it, okay? So the leadership needs to be there. And I think, if we can, the best would actually be if we can tackle the top management, okay? Because once you can change the mindset of the top management, it can easily be cascaded down, okay, to the lower management, okay, in terms of implementation. That is actually a very important measure. So what we do is we educate universities, other universities, organizations, even banks, Maybank for instance, they employ many of our graduates, okay, and university graduates. And then we also train, what do you call it, NGOs, DPOs, right? Not just DPOs, but also other NGOs, because it is the responsibility of the society to actually learn how to interact and actually, assist, support people with disabilities. It is what do you call it, it is actually a general responsibility, not just the responsibility of the families alone, right? Thank you very much, Encik Farid, for raising the issue, right? So it is a very important one, which I think perhaps you can take it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to close the questions from the floor. I'm going to ask one question from the online participants. Just one, eh? I think we're short of time. So being a disabled person or raising disabled children is expensive. It's very expensive, right? So we both know our wheelchair costs, what, 15K, 20K. Treatment each month costs upwards of how many? So imagine raising children in that sense for until they turn 18 and until that's so it's a lot of issues. So how can we as a society help to, because it takes a village to raise a kid, and raising a disabled child, I mean, like I'm sure we take more. So how can we band together and work together to actually make it financially possible to be a disabled person in Malaysia, to live in dignity and respect?
All right. Yeah, I'm blind, and I'm also have a child who is has multi disability. He is blind and also have autistic syndromes, and it is, yes, it is not. Yeah, it is very expensive to because we know what we call the extra cost of disability that we are facing day by day, and this has to be shared within community and also the government. So we are now trying to in Indonesia, we are now advocating for the disability allowance, but the problem is that the government only wants to put data for persons with disabilities who are coming from the lower economic status, where actually it is the different things. So supposed to be disability allowance cannot be mixed with the economic status, because once you are a person with disability and you are coming from the lower economic status, you can get to benefit from the government, because as a person with disabilities, you have extra costs, whether you are rich or you are poor. And as person with disability coming from the lower economic status, you have different challenges, so you can get to benefit. And it is that's why in the very beginning I'm recognizing the intersectionality that we are facing. So every benefit has to be in line to the intersectionality that the person, an individual, is facing. So it's not about being just that giving one benefit to every citizen, but being a just giving a just policy is giving every individual or every citizen with the right benefits, whether it is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 10. If it can accommodate the cost that they are facing day by day, then it will allow them to live with dignity, and also they can participate in the community as other citizens. So again, like this is a kind of accessibility and reasonable accommodation that the society and government has to be put the focus on, so that it will be a kind of a commitment of making sure that every citizen has their rights and living in dignity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rina. Would you like to add anything more on that? No. Okay, Prof?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ms. Rina. Okay, justice means giving the person what they need. Okay, it doesn't mean one size fits all. It doesn't mean that okay, you have given this allowance to all the disabled persons, you have done your job. No, it's not that way. Actually, it's an easy way out, but it's not the right way. Okay, you actually have to address the different disabilities require different needs and different support, and the severity of the disability also matters. All right, so I think the Malaysia will need to look back into the kind of support structure that they have in terms of financial assistance, because studies have shown that yes, people with disabilities, they actually have to endure a higher cost of living, okay, because of their disabilities. So it needs to be addressed in some countries, developed countries, Australia, for instance. So if a person becomes disabled and you need to do renovation on the house, the government actually assists, right? And if you actually got a job and you need a car to drive to your workplace, and you need to do adjustments to your car, the government actually pays for it. Why? Because with the understanding that once they work, the tax that they're paying will pay back. The amount that the government has actually spent on the person. So I think that should be the mindset that we have to, the approach that we have to take, right? The potential of the persons, right? And we actually support them to actually fulfill their potentials, and they can actually contribute positively to the economy and to the country, right? So I think we need to relook at the entire support system, okay, and the entire ecosystem as well. Because without the, with the barriers still existing, it's very difficult for people with disabilities to become independent and to contribute positively to the society, even though they can. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Thanks, Ms. Rina. I know that we are ending, but just kind of like, just some final thoughts on this, my personal final thoughts. So yeah, I mean, we need to relook back on the approach of our support system for disabled people. It's extremely expensive to be a disabled person. And like I said, you are all pre-disabled. You might be disabled either by circumstance, by age, by a lot of other things. So think about it. And when we talk about financial support, let me remind the floor that it's not about welfare. It's not about giving, oh, we're just going to give financial support and be done with it. No. The point of it all, the point of the financial support is to enable them to enable us to have rights, to be able to participate in society with respect and with dignity. So that's how I'm going to end as my session as a moderator. Thank you so much for your participation today. And let's connect after this together with everyone during lunch probably.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, moderators and panelists. Please remain on stage. As we conclude this session, I would like to invite Mr. Kabinesh Eliatambi, accompanied by Ms. Miriam Fisher, to the stage for the presentation of token of appreciation to our esteemed speakers and moderator. For your information, these gifts are handmade by PWDs at Crowell Center. Moderators, panelists, let's take a group photo. Please remain on stage.